Welcome back to the Hood News Fantasy Football Podcast. This is the Week 13 Waiver Wire episode. I got my boy with me here, BBTV.
The only dedicated Hudney, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because you're here for every single episode, huh?
Yes, sir. Never missed one.
Yeah, and I'm the host, Keem, as usual. We're going to go ahead and jump into it. Let's get started with the QBs. At the top, Russell Wilson, roster in 36% of leagues. You should stash him. He didn't perform the last two games. He's been a little bit iffy, not really startable, not the best, but he still has some decent matchups. He's playing Cincinnati this week, which is a decent matchup for quarterbacks. So worth a start if you're dealing with quarterback issues.
Just letting you know, this man had 270 passing yards in the snow. This man was playing in the snow, and he was like decent. Like I'm being so serious. He was so decent that, and Cincinnati's secondary is not that good. He could be a solid stream option for next week if you don't have a good quarterback.
Definitely. So just so everyone's aware, next week there are no buys. So you probably aren't dealing with issues, but in the event that, you just don't have a quarterback, he's probably your best bet next week as a streaming option if he's available.
Mm-hmm.
So quarterback waivers are a little bit dry, but I threw in another name here. Cooper Rush, roster in 5% of leagues. Listen, I know you're making a face. He threw for over 350 yards and a touchdown against Houston, and he threw for almost 250 yards and 2 TDs against Washington, who has been pretty solid defensively. Now, I know that was a divisional matchup with Washington, so it was more, they ended up winning that game. I think the defense did the work, but he still threw 2 touchdowns against that Washington secondary who's been picking it up pretty well lately. So Cooper Rush has been a decent start, man. He's had 2 decent weeks. Like in terms of a streamer, I would take that. He outperformed Jalen Hurts this week.
Yeah. And speaking of divisional matchups, they play the Giants next week. So that could
there you go.
A really good start if you somehow need a quarterback. If you don't have your starting quarterback come back, or you're playing off a stream.
If you're dealing with you have Jared Goff, that's your starting quarterback, then you might need a streamer this week because he's not getting done.
Back, and you need a stream option, Cooper Rush.
Exactly, and people are hoarding quarterbacks. It happens. We've seen it. I'm hoarding 4 defenses in my league, so yeah. But he was limited Monday, but he should play this Thursday. He is dealing with, like I said, limited in practice with any injury, but he should play. It is a good matchup against the Giants divisional. So pick him up, play him. Hopefully he does well for you if you need a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Next on the list is a funny one. I put Bryce Young in there. Rostered in only 5% in the leagues. I thought you were going to say, I'm not touching that.
No, I'm not, brother. I watched that entire game. Homie was slinging it against the Chiefs, man.
Dude, against the Chiefs, 263 yards and a touchdown. No turnovers against the Chiefs.
Crazy.
That's solid. That's really solid. I'm not going to lie. Look, Bryce Young's been terrible. They just came off their bye. They named him the starter a few weeks back. They said, you know what, Andy Dalton, we've seen enough. He's learned enough. He learned his lesson, sitting on the bench. We think he's ready. And who knows, he might be ready. He's against Tampa Bay, who's the number 1 matchup for quarterbacks.
Yeah.
In
divisional game.
Yahoo. But yeah, it's a divisional game. Good matchup for quarterback. Adam Thielen's back from injury, so he's got a good threat on that team that can score and catch passes. So if you're desperate, these are all options, and you may have to stream one of these guys depending on your situation.
Yeah, as a Saints fan, I kind of need the Panthers to win next week. Need them to win. Yeah, because that division is within 2 games. So, somewhat doable.
Yeah. Will Levis, next on the list, rostered in 12% of leagues. He has a good Jacksonville matchup week 14. So he might be a stash. He's been just slinging it, throwing the ball a lot, throwing interceptions too. I don't know if you saw the video of him running head down. He threw an interception and then turned around and sprinted like head down, full sprint to try and catch the to try and tackle
the defender.
Yeah. It was a funny clip, but he's got a good matchup in 2 weeks. Week 14 is a lot of teams on bye, so that may be a stash for 2 weeks from now. I think this week they get Washington. Yeah, this week they get Washington, and they have a really good schedule in the last few weeks. Let's hope you're not starting him for your playoffs, but week 14 you need to plug and play. He may be a good stash.
I think I picked him for you for one of your leagues, right? I was like, Will Levis over some other guy? Drake May.
I think you said Will Levis over Drake May, which he did outperform Drake May. Drake May they both did, they were within like 3 points of each other. It wasn't that.
Just saying.
I didn't need those points, but good call.
Yeah.
That does it for the QBs. Anything else? BBTV.
Chilling.
Before we move into wide receivers, top of the list, MVS, who's coming off the bye. So he may still be on waivers, only rostered in 15% of leagues. He's been, not quietly, but his last
in New Orleans.
He's kind of taken on the role of Rashid Shaheed. So he had 3 touchdowns in his last 2 games on only 5 receptions. So, and almost 200 yards off 5 receptions, which is crazy.
Yeah, the last game he played, by the way, he didn't have a deep ball thrown to him. It was literally like a 20-yard out, caught it, beat the defender, and just ran it all the way to the crib. So
nice.
Yeah. So.
No, he's talented, and they need help, and so that he's there to help, and he's doing his thing until Olave gets back. They need someone to step up, and he's definitely stepped up.
Yes, sir.
He's been solid. Next on the list, Devon Vele from the Broncos. He's had a good number of targets. He had 9 targets last game against the Raiders. He's been a recent target for Bo Nix. They're developing a connection outside of obviously Cortland Sutton, who's their number 1 pass catcher. But 9 targets is good, and they're playing Cleveland next week, who is a softer secondary. It should be able to be. He may just be a decent flex play in the next few weeks. Hopefully you don't need to use him like in your playoffs or anything. But if you need someone for this upcoming week because of injuries, you're in a deeper league, he may be worth a pickup. I would probably not use a waiver claim on him.
Yeah, me neither.
Unless you need someone, he may be worth it, but there's other names here that we got on the list.
Yeah, and Bo Nix is playing lights out, man. The past I don't even know how many weeks now. So
he's been playing well. I give credit to him for sure, but also credit to Sean Payton moving that offense along.
100%.
He's really turned that team around ever since they dumped Russell Wilson. Next on the list, Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. We've called him out before.
We've been calling him.
He doesn't know how to say his name. So we called him out because he had been getting he had a touchdown in 4 consecutive weeks, week 6 through week 9. Didn't get a touchdown against the Chargers, and then a touchdown against Minnesota, a touchdown against Houston. He's an end zone target, man. Like, Will Levis finds him in the end zone. And so he is kind of boom or bust. He doesn't really have a safe floor, but he has a decent ceiling. We've seen him he had 2 receptions for 117 yards and a touchdown against Minnesota. So he can have those games, and they play Jacksonville twice in the next 5 weeks. So he may be a player that you just have to plug into your lineup, and he could perform for you really well. So only rostered, I think I said 15% of leagues, only rostered in 12% of leagues. So even less. But yeah, decent pickup.
Yeah, definition of boomer bust. If you need a boomer bust player, go get that player. Like if you need somehow this man needs to win you your week by, I don't know, double-digit fantasy points, like low 10s, he's probably the guy.
Yeah, especially when they play Jacksonville. Those are the matchups you're going to want to target starting him if you need to.
Yeah.
Last on the list, Adam Thielen, who is back. He played this week against the Chiefs. I think he had 4 receptions or 4 targets, 3 receptions, but he's back from injury. He's getting involved in that offense. He is probably their most talented player on that offense.
Easily.
He had 3 receptions, 57 yards against Kansas City, which is pretty good. They get Tampa next week, so that's a good matchup for him. And he could just be a flex play, just someone to stash on your bench in case you get injuries, but definitely worth a pickup.
Yeah, you could flex him because obviously we saw Tampa Bay gives number 1 to quarterbacks, so that's a good thing if you have Bryce Young. And then Adam Thielen, I watched the game, man. He was playing like a dog. He created 2 pass interference penalties, which helped them out a lot, and they were very close to winning. And the Chiefs just had to become the Chiefs, come and win it.
Yeah, they had to close it out, right?
And I was rooting for the Panthers so much because
you and like 99% of the country too.
I know, because I was telling you there was a bettor that put like hella money on the Panthers money line. Like it was supposed to pay out like crazy, like 15x his money or something.
Yeah, for sure. No one would have expected the Panthers beating the Chiefs. Yeah. That's highly improbable. Do you want to rank these guys? Who do you want? Who do you like most pick up, and who do you like the least?
Yeah, probably go Thielen at the 1.
Okay.
MVS at the 2, Vele at the 3, Ikine at the 4.
Okay, I put Ikine before Vele because I think Ikine has better matchups.
Matchups are cool. I just like how Bo Nix is just slinging it to everyone. So everyone's kind of eating on that offense. So if Vele somehow eats, Bo Nix going to eat with him too.
I think as long as Sutton's there, I guess he won't be getting like Sutton gets the end zone targets mostly. So, but yeah, he could stand out and he could just get better with time with Bo Nix, get more of like a connection with him. So yeah, I'm not mad at it. All right. On to the RBs. At the very top, Gus Edwards, who is only rostered in 26% of leagues. J.K. Dobbins on Monday night just went down with a knee injury, and he's had very bad luck with knee injuries before. Mm-hmm. He's torn his ACL twice.
Yep.
So 2 seasons.
He tore his Achilles last year too.
Yeah, so he's had a lot of knee injuries, a lot of injuries in general. Honestly, he said it a lot earlier in the season. I'm just waiting for J.K. Dobbins to break down. I had Gus Edwards on my team. I ended up dropping him because he got injured or something, and J.K. Dobbins looked like he was just fine. But he's injured. We don't know the extent of the injury yet. We'll probably find out more tomorrow, and you can keep an eye on that as well. But Gus Edwards is still definitely worth a pickup.
And stash. More than likely, if J.K. Dobbins is out, Gus Edwards probably a great plug-and play for your RB2 position, and especially in the playoffs if J.K. Dobbins somehow, because he literally, I was at the game, and he got hurt and just went straight to the locker room. And so pretty much that's not a good sign to see from your player. Usually they're trying to walk it out, usually trying to stretch it out. No, this man went straight to the locker room. So,
well, we saw Montgomery with a shoulder injury in the Lions Colts game, and he was on the sideline after the injury. So that's a good sign. You want to see your player back on the sideline with the team. No, I can get back in there. I'm fine. Don't worry. It was nothing. It was just a little tweak. But yeah, it could be something more serious. We shall see.
Yeah, but definitely, definitely use a waiver wire for the Gus Edwards for sure.
100%. You
just as a stash. Well, obviously, we probably won't know if J.K. Dobbins is officially out for next Sunday, but I would still use a waiver wire for Gus Edwards.
Look, we'll know the extent of the injury by tomorrow morning. They'll do MRI. They'll reveal if he had season-ending injury or anything like that. If they say, oh, it's just a sprain, like a light sprain, they likely will shed more light on his injury tomorrow, and you'll know if you're sure he's going to be out next week. I think he's worth a waiver pickup regardless.
Yeah, on your league, another injury happens again.
Yeah. I mean, if you're number 1 on the waivers and you don't need the depth, okay, you can hold. But it still definitely, depending on his injury, if he's out for the season, yeah, he's worth it. It's automatic.
Yeah.
But yeah, just check on that. Look for the reports and find out. We will try to update the Discord with the information.
Yep, join that.
Next on the list, Jalen Wright for the Miami Dolphins, who didn't do much, but is definitely number 2 in that backfield. It goes Achane, then Jalen Wright, the rookie. Mostert has been completely phased out of that offense or that backfield. They've just taken it. He's in our duds list. I put him in there just to reiterate the fact that he is no longer a part of that backfield. Like, they're not using him. They're moving away from him completely. So Jalen Wright.
It blows my mind how this homie last year had like 20 touchdowns, and then this year he's not even usable.
Dude, that's just the nature of the game, man. Like, they get someone better, they don't need you, and they're like, all right, see ya. Like, we're good. Like, they don't need him. So what's the point of using him? You know what I mean? Yeah. And is there something with his contract where if he gets injured, maybe he has to get paid out or whatever? I don't know. Nothing? All right. But yeah, Jalen Wright, he had 7 carries and a target. He did fumble in the game, but he's still number 2 on the depth chart. That's not going to change. He's not as efficient as Achane. He's not as good as Achane. But if Achane were to get injured, he's right in line to get a ton of volume. So definitely worth a pickup. Maybe not worth a waiver claim, but definitely worth a pickup and stash. Next on the list, we have Jeremy McNichols, who's the 3rd string in Washington because Brian Robinson tweaked his ankle. Although he did come back and play, I think, and then just was out for the game. We had Eckler get a concussion that game. So the last man up is Jeremy McNichols. Only rostered in 1% of leagues. If it's deemed that Brian Robinson's injury is more severe and he's not going to play this week, then you want to pick up McNichols. Eckler will likely miss a game due to concussion. So McNichols definitely worth a pickup.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Next on the list, I threw in the rookie in the Chargers backfield, Vidal, who's actually been a healthy scratch each of the last 3 weeks, I think. He hasn't even been in the game at all. They've been going with Hassan Haskins and Gus Edwards to back up J.K. Dobbins, but that could change if something happens to J.K. Dobbins. So he is like a just stash and wait. Do not use a waiver claim on him. Gus Edwards is the next man up. It's not Vidal. And he's been a healthy scratch for the last, like I said, 3 weeks or so. So he was completely out of the game plan, even if anything would happen to J.K. Dobbins. But we saw him score a touchdown earlier this season. They did use him a little bit. So they could go back to him. We don't know. Worth a stash in deeper leagues for sure. Last but not least, we have Roschon Johnson, rostered in 28% of leagues. Doesn't really have a good schedule, but he did poach a touchdown this week, and he poached a touchdown last week. He seems to be getting the goal line work from Swift. So we know that if anything happens to DeAndre Swift, he's in line for huge volume and is definitely a good stash. If you have DeAndre Swift, make sure you have Roschon Johnson. He can be he's more of a handcuff and a very risky play. Like, I would not put him in my lineup unless I absolutely had to. Bro, you want to show us your whole chest? What was that?
No, I tried to just fix my
Bro, cover up. Dang, bro. We're going to get flagged for the video, man. YouTube's going to flag us. Right.
My fault.
Yeah, tits out. Anything about Roschon Johnson?
Nah, he just has kind of a tough schedule coming up.
He definitely does. But these other guys are kind of more of stashes. Gus Edwards is the number 1. McNichols might be in front of Jalen Wright just because he has a really good chance at being the starter this week.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jalen Wright's probably 3rd, more of like a desperation play / him, Jalen Wright, Vidal, and Roschon Johnson are all kind of like stashes. Like, they're not really worth a start unless the one in front of them gets injured.
100%.
But this week, if you're dealing with injuries or if you just don't have a running back, Gus Edwards or McNichols might be able to get slotted right into your lineup. So look for them, pick them up. They're not rostered very highly.
Yep.
Last but not least, let's get into the tight ends. At the top, Noah Gray.
hate that. Huh?
rostered in 4% of leagues, has 2 weeks in a row with 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I don't know. I was watching that game. Travis Kelce is getting locked
Yeah,
up.
were you there too? Were you at that game
No.
too?
I
You
actually
sure?
got tickets for those. Yeah. I don't live in Carolina. But what'd you call it? Noah Gray was just open on both tutties because Travis Kelce's literally getting double teamed. So if that keeps
Yep.
happening, Noah Gray skyrocketing. So I don't know. I feel like he's going to come back down to earth at some point. But
They have, yeah. I agree. I don't think he's like you must add him for sure, going to go off. He's more of like he could. He gets Vegas, who's a really good matchup for tight ends. Divisional game. They're likely going to try and lock up Kelce, right?
yeah,
They'd rather get scored on by Noah Gray than Kelce. Let's be honest.
yeah,
They'd rather not get scored on at all, but
obviously.
take away the best option and then hope that they don't give it to anyone or they can't get it to anyone else.
Yeah.
So, anyways, only roster in 4% of leagues, could be worth a stream this week against the Raiders in a divisional matchup. And then it gets pretty dicey from there on out. Honestly, Zach Ertz rostered in 48% of leagues. We've talked about him before. He's had 2 decent games in a row, actually pretty solid games for tight end. Played well against Dallas, played well against Philadelphia, scored in both those games. Next, we have Cole Kmet, who had 10 targets this week. So is Caleb Williams finding him more? Are they getting more comfortable with each other? Is it just the offense is changing after they fired their offensive coordinator 2 weeks ago? Are they trying to get him more involved? I don't know. He's extremely boom or bust, right? So very volatile option, not a very good one. Like I said, these options are kind of dicey.
Yeah. He plays Detroit next week, so they don't give much to the tight ends. So
They might need to just be throwing the ball. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like they did that against Minnesota. They ended up losing that game, but they came back. It was like 24-10 at one point, I think.
yeah. They pushed it to OT, but then they lost in OT.
That's right. So they came back and they brought that game back. And Minnesota's not been very generous to tight ends either. But in terms of tight ends, he's got a horrible schedule upcoming.
Mm-hmm.
All these teams give up very few points to tight ends, so probably not a good pickup. But if you're desperate, I mean, close your eyes. I think you have better options. But yeah. Next on the list, Hunter Henry, who's been probably the best receiver on that Patriots offense. He had 8 targets this week. He had 9 targets last week. They get the Colts this week, so should be a good matchup. And rostered in 48% of leagues, so not widely available, but one of these guys is probably available. Probably Cole Kmet because he's boom or bust, and no one wants to trust Caleb Williams. But hopefully you can get Noah Gray if you really need a tight end this week. Maybe use a waiver claim on him.
Yeah, definitely. I'm high on Hunter Henry next week, so he's probably a good tight end start if you need a tight end.
Yeah, agreed. On to the defenses. Defenses are widely rostered. Like I said, I'm holding 4 of them in my league just because I got. Look, let me explain it. I already explained it to my league, and they still hate me for it. They all spit on me, but I told them that I went to go pick up a defense. We're in a 14-man. I went to go pick up a defense, and I saw 3 teams with 2 defenses, and I was like, okay. And I didn't have a deep bench. I had a bunch of guys that were just kind of whatever. So I just started. I actually had a bunch of backup running backs for different teams, and they were all not, the main player was healthy.
Yeah.
I was hoping someone gets injured. So I was like, let me just drop all these guys and pick a bunch of defenses, and then I'll play one every week, whichever one has a good matchup. And I don't need the depth on my bench. I have a decent cup, like 2 backups. So I'm hoarding defenses too. And now people hate me for it. So
hey, anyways, do what you got to do.
Yeah. Onto the defenses. Dallas is playing against the Giants. Tommy DeVito. The Giants are, let's talk about Tommy DeVito. The Giants are trying to lose.
Yeah.
The only reason I would say this is not a good play is in the rare scenario that Tommy DeVito decides to go off, because we've seen him do decent like last year or when Daniel Jones was hurt before. But Dallas has a mostly healthy defense now. Micah Parsons is back, and his presence was felt in this Washington game they just played. They scored 2 touchdowns last week. The defense is kind of like their bright spot, trying to keep them in it.
Yeah.
So they are going to be playing hard, and the Giants' offense sucks. So they're definitely worth an ad. A lot of people drop them because that team has not been good. But yeah, definitely worth an ad.
The Cowboys should be fired next week. I wanted to add maybe like 1 or 2 more defenses.
Well, let me just go over the next one. The New York Jets this week. If they're only rostered in 45% of leagues, and this week they play against the Seattle Seahawks, who have been a decent matchup against or for defenses. The Jets are probably looking to bounce back after their loss to the Colts before the bye. So I think that it could be a decent pickup if you're desperate, or if there's no other options, you can pick up the New York Jets defense. Hopefully they can get you at least 7 points or so.
Yeah. So honestly, I was also thinking about like the vice versa of that is the Seattle defense.
I thought about Seattle defense too.
Yeah, I mean they just been picking it up a little bit. So I don't know. They looked just really good last week against the Fire Arizona team, coming off a bye. So I don't know.
They scored a touchdown. Yeah, they had an interception, a touchdown. So
Could be like a
stabs.
deep kind of stream, I should say.
Yeah, and that was a tough divisional matchup, and the defense, came out on top for Seattle. So
yeah,
deeper play with Seattle there.
Yeah,
is that it? Is that it for defenses? You have another one for us? Seattle, by the way, is only rostered in 9% of leagues, so widely available.
Yeah, no, I was also thinking of New England. New England defense could be a decent because they play Indianapolis Colts. I know Colts have been like scoring points right now. AR has been doing his thing. But if you somehow New England can just turn up.
Well, if Josh Downs is out next week,
that's what I'm saying.
That could be
New England could be solid.
The defense would, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
What's their roster percentage for New England?
I think I saw it 5%.
Oh yeah, so widely available.
Yeah.
On to the kickers. A couple kickers here. Tyler Bass, who a lot of people dropped for the bye week, rostered in 43% of leagues. He's been playing solid as a kicker, so he's definitely a good option. That Bills offense moves, so he gets opportunities to kick.
Yeah.
Next, we got Spencer Schrader, who I called out last week for kicker, and the Chiefs fill-in kicker for Harrison Butker, who's been kicking just fine and has another good matchup this week against the Raiders. So they give up a lot of points for kickers, typically divisional game. So points, it'll go back and forth, and hopefully the kicks will come in.
Yeah.
Last but not least, Jason Myers, who also has a good matchup. Didn't do that well this week. We called him out last week. We're going to give him another shot. Only rostered in 25% of leagues. These are just options that we feel decent about. I think I would take Tyler Bass, number 1 against San Francisco. Schrader against Vegas. Actually, I would take Schrader over Vegas against Vegas, number 1. I feel like that game.
Me too. I'd go Schrader, Bass, then Myers.
Yeah. I take it back. I go Bass first, then Schrader, then Myers, just like that. And I put that in that order because Tyler Bass is a better rest of season kicker. Schrader is a plug-in because Butker will come back eventually.
That is true, but if you need him for this week, I think Schrader would be.
If you need a win this week, get Schrader. He likely will get more points. It's hard to tell, but yeah, either way, I don't think you can go wrong with either of those two. Myers, if you can't get those two, Jason Myers should be a fine play this week.
Mm-hmm.
And that about does it. You got anything else, BBTV, you want to add?
No, just join the Discord if you guys have any questions.
Yeah. Can you stand up? Can you show us what you're wearing? I'm just kidding.
That's how it is.
All right. Anyway, you're not wearing a hoodie, man. Come on.
I know. I'm wearing I don't even know what to call it in English, but just a really big coat, a furry coat. How about that?
Big fur coat.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. That's what's up.
Yeah.
Anyways, that'll do it for the waiver wire episode, week 13. Put in the claims, get these players. Hopefully they'll help you win this week. No bye weeks this week, so a lot of action, a lot of points, hopefully. And hopefully we'll see you guys on the next episode. Peace.
Peace.